Thanks everybody who's here joining us today for our next Athletes Connect. We're going every other Thursday, and we've had quite a few now. But I will let Shalom take it away. I'll be here just to help out with the chat. If you have questions, you can throw them in there, and we will get to them later on.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Athletes Connect. We've got some great panelists here who we'll introduce here in a second. We want to talk about an important topic today around diversity and inclusion. So we got some great questions to ask, and the goal is to hopefully that it resonates with our listeners, right? Given our current environment that we're in right now. And I must say, Special Olympics is built on, some of the fundamental notions of inclusion, right? And that's something that I want to make clear given our topic today. We're definitely excited to hear how you guys feel about, obviously the topic and the current situation. We want to make sure that this is a safe place where you guys can, share some of your thoughts. But at the same time, the goal is to walk away from this next hour and be encouraged and let some of the answers resonate with our listeners, right? And how we could be of positive influence in our community moving forward. And how does sport bring us together? We're here together now in this hour, so we want to make sure we keep encouraging positivity around this. So in a minute, I'm going to introduce, or our guests will introduce themselves. They'll ask, they'll obviously give their name, what sports they play, and what was exciting for you, Garrett, Jonah, and Dion to be a part of this initiative, right? And so in a moment, I'll let you guys introduce yourself. But before that, I just want to touch a little bit about how the Athletes Connect came about. For those who are new listeners, this Athletes Connect came about round about when the thing called COVID hit, right? I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that. But it's an invisible thing that has forced us all to be in our homes and in a new environment. But for the most part, the worst thing we could do as athletes, right, is isolate ourselves, given that we've been in the team environment in our sports for a while. And this was a place where we could come together every other week and connect about common trends on how we can stay competition ready. And the reality is one day our world to some capacity will open up again. And we'll be allowed to compete in our sports. So in the meantime, how do we stay stimulated mentally, physically, and emotionally? And that's kind of what we want to address and provide a platform where we could address here. So with that being said, let's introduce our panelists. And real quickly, I see a lot of great questions and chat functions and the chat box being used. Feel free to keep putting your questions in there as we go, because in the last 20 or so minutes, we're going to open it up to the floor, and we want to make sure that your voices are heard. That's important to us. So keep the questions coming. But for now, Garrett, tell us, obviously, what sports you play. Tell us a little about yourself, but more importantly, what got you excited about being a part of today's discussion?
Sure, I will do that. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Garrett, and I am from Issaquah, Washington. I play on the Issaquah Spirit soccer team. I've been doing Special Olympics. This is going to be, hopefully next year, going to be my 5th season. I also referee soccer, and then I also help out with the area leadership teams at SOA and all the health messenger stuff. I think what got me excited about this topic, because it is a huge topic that we face today, and so I just want to bring some perspective on things as an athlete.
That's fantastic, Garrett, and you're right. You're an impressive soccer player. We're going to dive into a little bit more about your abilities to officiate and what that looks like from a global scale, right? And on a national scale. So we're really, really excited to have you on, Garrett. Jonah?
Hi, my name is Jonah Derrick. I am from Hopper, Washington. I am actually, and I love to be here. Thanks for having me, just by the way. I am very excited to be here because it makes me proud just to be who I am and just to learn from all of you guys and to hear stories and backgrounds. I mean, I have always been a huge believer in everything, inclusion, especially inclusion,
Yeah.
because that's very important.
And what sports do you play, Jonah?
I play basketball and tennis.
Woohoo! Do you have a favorite player in basketball?
Number 11 for the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm a huge Hawks player.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, Jonah. We'll come back to you for more questions here in a minute. Lastly, Dion, thanks for being on, man. You want to share a little bit about, before Dion talks, I just want to say this about Dion. Dion's been a teammate of mine for, I want to say, more than 5 years now. He's an impressive player. His ability, probably, if not one of the most athletic guys I've played against and with. He's got an incredible background. And Dion, we couldn't be more proud to have you on, especially today's topic. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So like you said, my name's Dion Crowder. I'm from Chicago, Illinois originally, but I've been in Seattle for a little over 4 years now, and like to call Seattle home. And I grew up wrestling mostly and started playing rugby when I was in college. Fell in love with the sport, but one of the things that I fell in love with most about rugby was the fact that it's so, a big part of the culture of rugby is being really inclusive to everyone. There's men's and women's teams. There's, different players on each team where essentially anyone of any body type or skill set can be able to play. So whether you're young, old, big or small, all of that. So that's one of the things that I've really loved about rugby and has helped me kind of bring into other aspects of my life, being more inclusive, making sure other people are trying to do the same as well. And yeah, I'm happy to be on here tonight, talk with you guys, and looking forward to the chat.
No, that's fantastic, Dion. And you bring up some so this is a great segue for us, especially given our topic today, which is around diversity and inclusion, right? You talked about with rugby, and I've found this as well, right? That rugby is such an inclusive sport. Dion said that rugby is a game, for all shapes and sizes. In fact, for those who don't know, women's rugby is going quicker than men's rugby in America. How about that? Huh? Interesting facts. Given what everybody's perception, I'd love to see in the chat function, who here has seen rugby? Who's seen a rugby match, and what are your thoughts? I'd love to see what the chat functions look like, and then we can address more of this at the end. But I want to address another point that Dion said was, definitely around how it's made him feel included, right? He's just learned how to pick up the game. So obviously, and I think this, and I truly believe this to be true around all sports, right? Is that sports is a great way for us to feel included. So I want to pivot this question to Garrett. Garrett, you've played a lot of sports in your time, and you've sampled a bunch of different sports. How has sport made you feel included? Well, I put it this way: how has Special Olympics made you feel included?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, in many ways, before Special Olympics, let me go back. To be honest, I didn't really know what Special Olympics was. Growing up in Eastern Washington, if y'all don't know where that is, it's about 3.5 hours southeast from Seattle. Ever since through middle school, through, high school, I was, no one was being very inclusive. No one was, they only saw me as for my disability and not ability. So they would always, treat me, not right. I've had guys, try to act different around me. And so by me, coming back when I went to college and then getting offered to play Special Olympics, it was, I was just say a big blessing to me, because not only that I made so many friends, and that it's all about the ability instead of the disability with Special Olympics. And, and I'm on a team where everyone gets along. And, and I will continue to be with that team, until something happens. But, it's been amazing through these, couple years, almost 5 seasons now, and that, they only know about, how, the ability of me playing soccer. And so it's always great. And knowing that they know that I give it my 100% every single game, and that, everyone has fun. So I think that's how Special Olympics has changed me.
That's awesome, Garrett. I mean, you brought up some great points there about how, you brought up how relationships and new friends that you've made here in the Special Olympics has made you feel included. And I think that's what, again, to the point, the unique thing about what we all have in common, right, is sports. Sports brings us together and we get to try different things. And I love that about it. So thank you for sharing, Garrett. Jonah, what about you? Like, you're a great basketball player. You've tried different sports in your time. How has Special Olympics made you feel included?
Well, before I was here, I've done Special Olympics to both middle school and high school, and I was introduced to it when I first started, and people have always challenged me to be a leader and to include those who with disabilities and to lift them up and I'm both on and off the court sometimes helping and playing this field, but I've really enjoyed getting to know every single one of the players and connecting with them in a way that makes them feel good, honored, and included in what they do and what the part they play in, and no matter what the sport is. And since I got started from my school, we have a saying GTY, greater than yourself, and that means no one is greater than you or no one is greater than them. We all matter. We are one of the same.
That's awesome. And I like the way you put that. I mean, I'm going to steal Garrett's line here and say, I love the way you basically said, look at my ability, not my disability, right? That's an awesome line, Garrett, and I could definitely see the same run through with you, Jonah. So well done in handling that. Definitely. I just want to, put that in the panel as well. I mean, sorry, not in the panel, and to our listeners, if there are any ways, I'd love to hear from our listeners, and obviously using the chat function, of how Special Olympics have made you feel included, and what was that like. So definitely use the chat function and write that in, because we'll definitely want to hear. So Dion, given the time that we're in, man, this is some crazy times right now, especially with sport. I'm sure it's on everybody's TVs and social media and things like that. But, how has, sport this week if you look at the professional sport, everyone's been put on pause right now with the boycott and everything. How has recent events in sport impacted you personally?
Personally, it's shown a lot of what impact we can have as athletes and what power we have as athletes. How we can voice our opinions and be able to make positive change, be able to make others feel included, make others feel safe, in the spaces that they're in and the spaces that we create. At the end of the day, people play sports to have fun, to enjoy themselves, to let loose. People watch sports to do the same as well. And I think that if we stick to that base level, everyone just wants to have fun and be a part of something, bigger than themselves, feel included. If we get past all the other, our differences, we'll realize how much we are alike. And those of us that are in sports, realize that because we come together. We're on teams with people that are different from us, come from different backgrounds, look different from us, but we still find a way to come together, play together, have fun together, and kind of work towards a common goal together. And that's something that can resonate and kind of transfer to the rest of the country as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, if you think about like Special Olympics, you've got a wide variety of sports, and then you've got, the Olympic Games where, I was very fortunate to be at. And the greatest thing about the Olympic Games was I had a new profound respect for other sports.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could definitely see what you mean there. I'm intrigued. You mentioned a lot of great things about how sport brings us together and why we play sport, and then the unity that comes from sport. Garrett, I could tell you that one of the main reasons why I played sport to begin with wasn't because I loved the sport that I first played, wasn't because I was forced to play. It was because I originally played sport, and I think I was playing some version of basketball, and I only did it because my friends played. And then through me trying that, I was able to, oh, hey, come try this, come try that. And then I was able to make friends, and two, experience everything that Dion just experienced. What was your first reason? Why did you first play sport? Like, what was your initial reason? Did you know you loved that sport that you first played? Could you remember? And what are some of the reasons that you can remember why you first played?
Well, you can think of one time. So when I was living in Duval, Washington, which is a small town that's just up north by Redmond. The very first thing I told my dad was, I wanted to play football. And so, I was a big kid. So playing football was awesome. It taught me, how to be in a team. It was just fun to be part of a game, and being active. And then so I played football for throughout my time through middle school and high school. And then I realized, it was time for me to switch sports. And I played soccer, like rec league. It wasn't that serious. And so when I got the opportunity to play soccer for Special Olympics, I jumped at the opportunity and played it because I missed playing sports. Sports has been part of a huge life.
Yeah.
I can remember as little as I was to now 24, I've always had a ball in my hand or some sort of sports in my hand that I do. And so I decided to take soccer seriously because with Special Olympics, knowing that the USA games was going to be in our home in our backyard, made me want to as my first year, try to make it. And successfully we did, and we took bronze, and we played some really good teams. I can remember 4 games we only lost by 1 goal. And so, I think it's going back, I think the reason, it's just I love it, and it's just part of me. I can't live without it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jonah, have you ever felt, has there ever been a time where you felt like you weren't included in sport?
Yeah, a couple times. I remember this one time when I was still in school, and I wanted to play ball with some. My friends were playing ball, and some of them had invited me over, and a couple of other kids from the teams were like, you don't belong here. We don't want you. And basically just said, forget it. So, and I was disappointed, and I felt like I didn't fit in, and I kind of was bummed out because it's kind of what I do. It's kind of my life for sports as a kid.
Right. And we probably have some listeners on here who've probably gone through the same thing, Jonah. What would you suggest to do if that happens next time?
I've learned that even though people would tell you that you don't belong and that you can't play with them, doesn't mean you actually have to listen to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you actually have to do what they say. You don't look up to them. They don't own your life. You actually can tell them, hey, my friends have asked me if I want to play. You can't stop that. You don't you can't, it's not, you can't overrule what they say.
Yep.
Are you judge? No. You're not anything. You're not above what they are. You are the equal as they are, and you can't tell somebody that they can't do anything just because you say so.
That is such a powerful answer, Jonah, and I
We
can.
all have you, and I mean, for me, I was kind of bummed. I was a little bit disappointed, but as I was walking away, I realized, why did I get that? Why did I get this kid a pass? Why did I just get this? Why did I just give in? So I just turned back around and I literally stood up to him and I just told him off, like, you can't tell me something that I can't do. My friends, if my friends ask me to run play, I'm gonna take a chance and jump at it.
That's such a powerful answer, Jonah. And I definitely know that there's listeners on here that will resonate with that. You know, that's great confidence, great story, and great job. Thanks for sharing, Jonah. Dion, I mean, it's safe to say that sport is a great way to, help us bring us all together, right? And I think I'll be intrigued to ask you, how has sport brought us together, one, as a country, and then two, narrowing that down to just us as a community, as a Washington community. What's your take on that?
I think as a country, recently, there's been a lot of things that have been happening, but one thing that's been kind of steady is that, sports have been, continuing to go on as much as they can, at least. But as far as people are starting to see athletes as more than just athletes, but like as actual people, which we are, who have feelings. We have, everyone goes through different things that, that they have personally throughout life. And people are starting to realize more and more how, like I said earlier, how similar we are, even though we have these differences. People are starting to realize more that, we all go through different times of our life where we don't feel as confident as we should, or, there's family problems, things like that, or problems with our friends. And it's been athletes sharing these stories more recently around the country has opened up a lot more conversations similar to this, where we can have, people are chatting with each other and letting each other know how they feel, their emotions, their thoughts, things like that. So at the end of the day, I think some of these conversations are hard to have, especially when people have different opinions and different viewpoints, things like that. But they're definitely leading towards a better future for our country, I believe. And then as far as our locally, I think we have something pretty special in Washington and in Seattle. I mean, you can see it just from the color scheme of a lot of the teams that we have. Like, it's all like blue and green everywhere. Like when you go to different games, you'll see all the mascots together of all the different teams, things like that. Different teams supporting each other, like women, men, supporting each other through social media, all of that. I think that as a state, we've been able to, kind of lead the charge as far as, being inclusive, working together towards a better future for everyone. I think it was 2 years ago, I was at one of the Special Olympics Washington games. I believe it was flag football, and just helping out and, cheering on, helping coach, things like that, move things around. It just felt so special being there, and how happy everyone was, how there's just people volunteering, everyone that was playing the games. It just felt like one big community. And you get that sense throughout a lot of Washington, at least from my personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could definitely, second that notion of, we do have something special here in Washington, right? We are very fortunate in our environment that we have and that we've created over the years. And I definitely think, this is, us here talking about it today is a testament to that, right? And definitely a great thing that we want to continue moving forward. I got two last questions for everybody. One is, we talk about diversity. Garrett, what does that mean to you when it comes to sport? What is diversity, and how important is diversity right? So for me, example, Garrett, like for me, it might be like diversity is important in sport because we have humans were so creative, and talent can mean a lot of different things, right? Talent can come in many forms. And what I've seen in my time in sport is that you combine those things together. It could be the difference between winning a championship and losing is getting the right chemistry and the right balance of diverse skill sets and backgrounds and obviously shapes and sizes. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, right? And as a coach, their job is, I couldn't imagine. It's a tough job to try and put a team together to go win a championship, regardless of what sport it is. But diversity could mean, that side without even thinking about their race even, right? Or what their background is. But, that was for me. Garrett, what does that mean to you? What does diversity mean in sport mean to you?
I think diversity is a beautiful thing. When you see it in a big picture, I think for me, it's being able, like you said, taking, forget, what their background is, what their ethnicity, what, their skill level is, we're all, brothers and sisters, whatever sport you play. And then that's a beautiful thing. So I think for me, diversity means, we're coming together, like we're family. And I tell my guys is that I love playing with them. I wouldn't imagine a better team to play than the team that I have right here, because I know in the end that, we all, work together no matter what background, ethnicity, or whatever they come from. So I think that's what diversity means to me.
That's awesome. Jonah, what does diversity mean to you?
So what that means to me is that, like, anyone can compete, anyone can play any sport, no matter what. Like, all is free. There is no anybody can participate. Anybody has the right to do that. Like, with or without a disability, and which means everyone can have a good time and just be there and enjoy each other's company and get to know them better and build a friendship bigger and bigger and stronger and more healthier. The more you know them, the sooner you'll become great friends. And there's nothing there's nothing you really can't do like that separates that. I mean, sports, that's the life of someone. Sports is the life of someone who is dedicated and willing to do what they do, and that's not many people have that. Like, because a lot of people just want to start something and think that I can't do it, but like coaching, like Garrett's being coach and saying that, and like you're saying that trying to put together a team on your own, that's like you're always gonna have help. That someone's always gonna have your back to do it.
And I know you have a heart, Jonah, for encouraging that message of diversity and inclusion. In fact, you've even helped start, a unified program within your school. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I actually I've done that for several years now, both in middle school and high school. I was first introduced it to middle school when my teacher, who was also my coach, came up to me and asked me whether I want to be a part of this. And I'm like, what is it? And so she said, during my first game, I realized this is what it is. People coming together with both, not only disabilities, but without, and just having a good time. Yeah. And seeing everyone's full potential in games that not only like in basketball, but in other variety of games, and think what they can truly do. But as I got to high school, I continued to do it, and not only about building friendships and getting stronger together, but seeing what seeing what teamwork is really all about, helping others, especially with those in need, especially with disabilities. And then it got me thinking, what if I could do that for the same thing for another school who doesn't know what that is, and share that experience with them. And I just want to thank my coach for actually giving me that idea and for inspiring me to do what I just did, of being a unified starter for my school.
Wow.
I could never have done it without him. Nor my parents.
That's such an incredible story, Jonah. Especially, to share the story that you did previously, to go and start a unified program. Look at you. You're what a way to bounce back from that, and what an incredible story to share. And I'm encouraged, and I'm positive that our listeners are encouraged to hear the same. The strength that you had. And then not only that, take that motivation and encourage the same vision throughout other school programs. Well done, Jonah.
I mean, I've had people tell me that I should consider working for Special Olympics, and I'm like, I ain't gonna take the jump at that chance and literally do it myself personally.
Absolutely. And on that note, I mean, I want to ask to the listeners, and Garrett and Jonah, like the Special Olympics, we really are trying to be here to make the experience of sport and the diverse programming that we want to roll out for our athletes. We really want to make it an enjoyable experience. So by using the chat function, or Jonah and Garrett, if you can think of anything, how could we, as the Special Olympics organization of Washington, how can we help improve that diversity and inclusion experience for our athletes, right? Because you two now represent the voice of all our listeners, unless they use the chat function. But there are many more that are out there that are unfortunate to make this panel. What do you both think? Like, what's something, even if it's one thing that we can do at the Special Olympics so that we can help improve your experience from a diversity and inclusion lens?
I mean, there are things that anybody can do, but you have to want to do it. You have to be dedicated. And I mean, people with disabilities and without, they can make that they're the difference. They're the future of Special Olympics. They're the reason why Special Olympics exists. Without them, all of that would fall apart. But they are the future. They're the next generation of us. They're the next generation of Special Olympics 2.0.
Yeah,
I would keep it the way it is.
Good. Derrick?
Oh gosh, I would think. Well, like Jonah said, I think what SOA is doing is unbelievable. So I would say there's not a whole lot of things that I would do to change. I would just say to encourage athletes, like athletes that are listening to this, be athlete leaders, take chances, because I've taken, both Joe and I have taken chances, and look where we both are, so I would just say, it's okay to, take a chance. If you believe something, then go for it. I would say, I would just say that just have athletes, be athlete leaders, we're the voices for, we're the voices that if we want change, then we should be the ones leading it.
Yeah.
Even the athletes can become the leaders, but because they are the difference. And me and Garrett, from what he said, even we could learn things from athletes, that new things from the athletes, and the athletes can become the leaders.
Yeah.
Either way, and we could even learn from the athletes themselves.
I absolutely agree with you, and I just wanted to share that coming from the chat, I think it seems like people are agreeing with you guys. Some of the recommendations I just saw were for more unified opportunities, which is what we've been talking about, just more chance to integrate people with different abilities and different experiences. And then we also got a suggestion for more athlete leadership. So for what it sounds like you guys are representing the voices of our listeners well, but I think those are some awesome things to focus on.
Yeah, that's great feedback, and we'll definitely, the whole point of this panel, right, is not what happens today, is how can we keep moving the needle positively tomorrow and moving forward, right? It's taking all what being discussed on this panel, and my job personally would be to report back to the organization and say, here's what the athletes are saying, what can we do to move it forward, right? We want to make sure that that your voices are being heard. And we got about 5 minutes, and then we'll open up the chat floor. We got a bunch of chats in there and questions. But I wanna shift the last question to Dion. Dion, you want to just close us out? Given our current environment right now, your involvement with Special Olympics, what does diversity mean to you, and how do we positively move forward as a community, and obviously representing a wide range of sports? What are some good best practices to move forward?
Yeah, so as far as diversity, to me, that it's more so about providing opportunity to everyone, providing the opportunity to have, like I said earlier, have fun, be a part of a team sport, be involved, no matter what your abilities are, being able to compete and be able to join in with sports. As far as the future, I think one thing that I was going to say, McKenna Gaddis, she pretty much hit it on the head, like having more unified teams.
Yeah.
So what she said was have more unified teams, so that when Special Olympic athletes do get older, they're not they're already used to being around other athletes, athletes that don't have any disabilities, and I think that would work really well going both ways, because it'll help us as athletes be able to interact better with athletes with disabilities, and vice versa, and that way we can be able to see, like I said earlier, like how similar we are, even though we have these differences, and be able to connect, be able to come together and reach towards this one goal, which ultimately we always try to do, whether it's in sports or as a country, as a community. We all try to reach towards a common goal, and work together. I think that doing so, having more unified teams within different sports could be a good leeway into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you basically talked about how sports it honors everybody's unique abilities, right? It honors our differences. Sport honors our unique histories that we have, regardless of our background, right? And I think that quite sums up our conversation quite nicely, that regardless of where we're from, what we do, the one thing that we all have in common is sports, and it's brought us together in a very unique way. So with that being said,
we all have that. Sorry, and we all have that that innate want to be to be part of something.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that we should deny that from anyone, no matter what their creed, color, what they're able to do.
Oh, 100%. I definitely know that sport has definitely made me feel a part of something bigger than myself, right? It's helped me realize, and it's quite easy for us to feel like it's, woe is me, or everything's about me. But then you get into a team environment, and you learn how to share quite quickly. But with that being said, Leah, let's open up the chats. We've got quite a few in there. Let's see what our listeners want to ask, and we'll answer it as best as possible, and then we'll close it up.
Absolutely. So yeah, if anyone has questions that they're thinking of, you can throw them in the chat, or you can use the Q&A button, which is at the bottom of your screen. While you guys are thinking of those, I just quickly wanted to share there were quite a few awesome stories that came through from people as you were all sharing your stories and experiences, and I just thought I'd read off just a few of them. So let's see, we had someone said Special Olympics has helped give me a voice. And again, there are some people reiterating how sports and Special Olympics have really pushed the family community mentality as we're all trying to reach the same goal. Someone said, I think that Special Olympics athletes are always included, and it's about all athletes in general. And that there are some experiences being picked on as being different, but that sports was always a common thread and a common opportunity to be a part of. So I think this was awesome. Thank you everybody for sharing your experiences and stories. It's really cool to, you know, similarly that we all have these experiences that we can share and relate about, and how sports brings us together. And that's something to share, which is really cool. And the point of Athletes Connect. So we do have some questions. This I thought was a great question from Marcia. She asked, so Marcia is a team captain. She said she's always looking for advice, and she asked, how do you handle the diversity of your teammates, as in the different ability levels, thinking, personalities? And so I think the question is, you know, when everyone is different and you're trying to bring everybody together to focus on that common goal, how do you do that? And I'll open that up for anyone if any of you have thoughts there.
I'll take that. So I think as leaders, you know, when you're leading a team, it's a lot of hard work. But one thing that a leader usually has to do is kind of be able to bring out the best in, you know, in their teammates, or, you know, if you're a coach and your players. So it takes a lot of work to really understand that person, understand what their abilities are, what their weaknesses are, and then kind of, you know, working with that to help them build on those weaknesses and make sure to encourage their strengths and know that, you know, if some people, you know, some people have issues with, you know, believing in themselves sometimes. And if they have someone that's, you know, pumping them up, telling them, no, you're great at this, such and such, it works a lot. It goes a lot further, so that they know, okay, I'm good at this. I can continue to do what I'm doing. And then but when you also let them know what they can improve on, it lets them know, you know, how they can keep getting better, even though they aren't good at certain things. And once you have that down, you can kind of be able to work that within the team itself as well.
That's great. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add to it? Jonah or Garrett, do you have any other thoughts on that one? That's okay.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I would just to add what Dion said, I think, you know, it's about, you know, if a teammate's feeling down, you know, you know, just act like you're like a brother, and that no matter what, just make them feel like they're special and that they're a part of the team. And then it's all about the, you know, ability, you know, we're here, you know, we're here to have fun. We're here to, you know, compete every day. You know, if we make a mistake, that's okay. We're here to encourage. We're not here to put down people. So I was just, yeah, that's what I would like to add.
Yeah, I think lastly, I'll just say this. A lot of you's brought up that you want to be in the, you know, the more athlete leadership roles, right? And I truly believe that in my time in sports, and I've spent over 20 years in sports, and I truly believe that one of the greatest way you can make somebody feel involved would be, regardless of their skill level, especially if you're dealing with, you know, skill levels from a peer to someone who's fairly new, for example. You know, it's definitely around, to Dion's point, around how do the leaders or coaches or captains or or how do they create an environment where it equalizes the talent? So for example, you could be going and playing in basketball training, for instance, and there's a particular drill that you're trying to get a certain outcome out of it. Maybe there's another drill that does the same outcome, but just done in a different way, right? That engages that particular athlete. That's a little bit more fun and more engaging. So same sort of outcome, but just change the way you deliver it, if that makes sense. So for those leaders out there who want to get more involved in the leadership side of things, I would encourage trying to think about different ways you can get the same point across. And that is a great technique to try and get newer folks or folks with, various skill levels and bring them all together.
But going back to what Garrett said, your team, that's your family. Like, if runs down, if one team went down, help them up, or cheer them up, whatever way. Like, they're your brothers and sisters. Like, because they're your team, that's your family. Like, do whatever you have to help them up, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Like, you are that key, and so are they. Each one has their own unique way of helping each other grow stronger and better.
That's awesome. I think that all speaks really well to this conversation. That's awesome. All right, we have a few other questions here that are coming through. We had a few that were looking for, I think, some more advice around not being included and sort of how to handle those situations. So we had one that said, how do you talk to friends who aren't being inclusive, maybe to you or to somebody else? And another question similarly that is talking about people who are being mean. Do you have any last words of advice for everybody listening?
I'll take this one. I would just be yourself and to say what's on your mind, and just be yourself and just say what you need to say, and tell them why you feel that way. It doesn't hurt to try. And also lean on your friends. Also lean on your friends, people that have your back. Those are that's what a lot of people would do. I mean, that's personally, from experience, it takes a lot to ask for help like that. But there are people in the world who will do that. Like, who would try to put you down, but you always have someone to lean on, no matter what. That won't change.
Thanks, Jonah. I like it. Okay. Unless there is anything else to say on that one. We had just a few that were a bit more fun, a little bit off topic, but they were asking about favorite sports. So that might not necessarily. We'll do just this last one, and then if there's anything else that comes through, we'll call it good. But so the question was about favorite sports, and what made you fall in love with sports.
Oh, okay, I'll take this one. So my favorite sport to watch is hockey. I absolutely love hockey. My favorite sport playing would have to be soccer, the sport that I'm playing. And then that, for my love for soccer, got me, wanting to be a referee, which then got me to, ref in really big events. Like, I just recently was invited to be one of 3 athlete officials to go to the 2019 World Games in Abu Dhabi. So that was fun. And, there was, about 8,000 athletes over 240 nations coming together to play to compete in Special Olympics. We're all that we all love, and so I think that was a huge huge moment in my life. That's going to events like that if you that speaks inclusion and diversity right there. Having nations coming together, and competing. What we all love to do is participate in Special Olympics. And no matter, and when my time there, when I saw I saw no matter what the score was, everyone was high-fiving, hugging each other, interacting with one another. And I think I started my own crazy tradition that every time that if I get selected to go to a world game, I always have to take a picture with the German national team, because that is my heritage, and that what's making me feel proud too. And then quickly, I don't want to take all the time. The reason why I decided to take to play sports is making new friends, be competitive. I am a very competitive competitive person on the field, but when I'm off the field, I'm just like this. So yeah.
Thanks, Garrett. Jonah, do you have a quick response to that one too?
My favorite sport would have to be tennis, because it gives me both because I'm always constantly on the move, but it also, at the same time, it gives me time to think of how I strike and how I move and how I hit it and where the ball goes and but also at the same time, it gives me, it's really fun because it's very competitive. It's also a place where you can also make new friends if you're on a team or if you're in a league. Then it's a great way to start a new family of teammates and grow together as one. So
that's great. The thing that I like about your answers there is that you have, similarly to everything we're talking about here, everyone has different interests, but you can still talk about the same things with your different interests. You still both like the competition and the friends that you make within what you're working on. So I think that's awesome. If there are any last questions, you can send them through now, but I think we've had some awesome participation from our attendees today. I really appreciate all of you guys sharing your thoughts and questions. And we're about at our time here. We do have a few last minute announcements. But does any of our panelists have any last things to share before we move into that phase of our panel today?
I would just say quickly, don't be, if you are wanting to be a leader, I did see one question that I would like to answer. The question was, what advice could you do about talking in huge crowds? I think for me, just just make it fun. Yes, I do get nervous, talking in big groups, but I always like to slide in a joke, an icebreaker, to make it feel more fun and engaging. So I would just say that's the best advice that I can think of about talking in big groups.
I would just say be yourself and just go with the flow of what you think is of how you can motivate the crowd and inspire them. That's and also what Garrett said, dropping like an icebreaker or a joke every once in a while, to pump up the crowd a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna answer. Timothy had a couple questions for me. The first one was just how did I fall in love with sports, or why did I fall in love with sports? Like I said earlier, I started off wrestling. I've only been playing rugby for about 6 years, but I wrestled before that. And one thing, I'm usually a pretty quiet guy. in normal day setting, but when I'm playing sports, when I get really loud, really excited, really hyped up, and it brings out a side of me that I love, and that I don't really kind of express on the daily. So I love that aspect of it. And my favorite sport now is rugby. I've been playing it for 6 years now, and it's because of how inclusive and diverse it is. It's really like the people that I've met since I've been playing rugby have become more of like a family to me, because of how close knit we are, and how much we're always there for each other. So that's what has really made me fall in love with the sport. And then as far as when did I first fall in love with Special Olympics Washington, like I said, 2 years ago, I was at the flag football event, and it was just so much fun just being around all the athletes, being around all the parents and everyone. I had a smile on my face the whole time. We're all just having fun, throwing the ball around. It was just a really great time, and made me want to get more involved with Special Olympics Washington and do more and see how I can help out.
We're glad to have you.
I can relate, Dion. I'm a quiet person myself, so I'm quiet on myself too. If I don't see myself.
Great. Well, I have just a few announcements. Shalom, do you have anything you want to add before that, or do you want to sort of bring it all back at the end of those announcements? Okay. Let's see. So these panels are Athletes Connect panels. A lot of you have come to quite a few of our panels, which has been awesome. We are continuing to do them every other Thursday. And our next panel in 2 weeks is going to be on the importance of voting, which is really just to talk about how important it is to share your opinion and be involved in your community. And we also have a very exciting special edition of Athletes Connect, which will be in 1 week from today. And that one is going to involve the Seattle Storm and Bank of America. And so it is on September 3rd, and it'll be a little bit earlier. It'll be from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I will make sure to send out a follow-up email to everybody here. I'll share some of the great pieces of advice and some of the things we heard this evening, but I'll also make sure to include the information on some of our upcoming events. So, and if anybody has questions about any of that, feel free to email me. You'll have my email once I send out the reminder. So thank you all so much. It's been really nice chatting. I'll let Shalom close it off.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on this week's Athlete Connect. To Leah's point, really appreciate everybody's input, questions, our panelists, of course, and we'll definitely, join us on September 3rd, and then the following Athletes Connect the week after. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
See you guys.